The time has finally come. The much awaited night is here, guys. Week 1 is here. Football is back. We got football, real NFL regular season football on our television screens in less than 2.5 hours, under 2.5 hours till we see a real NFL football game. The Los Angeles Rams versus the Buffalo Bills. Two teams that are Super Bowl contenders yet again this year. One team is the favorite to win it all. One team's coming off the Super Bowl. Teams coming off a Super Bowl win, by the way, have done pretty well in their home opener in years past. Gonna be a great game. We're gonna be talking through everything we need to talk through for fantasy football purposes tonight. I'll be live probably up until at least for the next hour, likely up until around 7:30 or 8 p.m. Eastern, as I will be every single Thursday throughout the NFL season. So make sure that you are tuned in and hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button. It feels good to be back, man. Football season is back. It does not get better than tonight, week 1, game 1. I cannot wait to talk through the game tonight, talk through how I'm feeling about week 1 in general. I'll also be live every single Sunday morning, really breaking down game by game a little bit more. My plan on the Thursday night games is to give a quick overview of what the week 1 matchups are looking like. I will, of course, talk a lot about the game that's going to happen tonight. And also, most importantly, making sure we have the right guys slotted into the right lineups for fantasy football. Let's start with this question here from Jacob. And I will, of course, get to as many comments, questions as I can as well. Let's start with this question here from Jacob. How am I feeling about Cam Akers? I'm not feeling so great about Cam Akers. Cam Akers is one of these guys that you probably need to start him in, like, if you're in a 10 or 12 person league where you drafted Cam Akers, you probably need to start Cam Akers. But I'm not feeling so great about starting him in week 1. I would love to see him show that burst that he had before his injury before putting him into my starting lineup. I do think this could also be a very pass heavy game. Let me show you where Cam Akers is projecting out for Walter in week 1. He is the best running back from Walter in this game. He is projected 12.4 PPR points. So I don't think that's terrible, but I do think he has a pretty low floor. And I do think Darrell Henderson is going to be involved as well. We have him projected for almost 10 fantasy points tonight. He does have the highest ceiling and the best floor, though, among all running backs playing tonight. But I don't feel great about any of the running backs. And this is one of the things that I'm going to be watching most closely tonight is how the Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson breakdown it shifts out, because this is going to have a huge impact on fantasy throughout the season. We've heard a lot of different rumblings this offseason of, is it going to be a 1A, 1B type of situation? I think it could be 80% Cam Akers or as little as 50% Cam Akers. So I'm not feeling amazing about starting Cam Akers tonight. I do, obviously, there are a lot of players that you need to start tonight, though. So we are going to get to that. I am picking. Someone's asking in the YouTube live, and I will get to as many comments as I can throughout the live stream. I promise you, by the end of this live, I'll break down every single player you need to start, every single player you should be questioning in your lineup tonight, as well as my pick for the night, one of my favorite player props for the night, and then a quick outline of the games to come on Sunday. And again, I'll be live Sunday morning, breaking all of those down even more in advance, so in more detail. I'm live basically from when I wake up to 1 o'clock or kickoff on Sundays. But yeah, so the Bills are small favorites tonight. They're playing obviously in Los Angeles. Let me pull up the official live line for us all. Definitely not super confident either way on this opening game. I'd probably lean towards the Bills. They are small favorites. I think I'd take them at 2.5, but it's really close. I don't feel great about the spread in this game. I will have all my picks against the spread out by Sunday morning. I'll keep my tally on those again. Last year, I picked every single game. I went around 56%, which is pretty strong across the course of a season. And my locks did a little bit better than that. Definitely no lock on the game tonight. But I do really like one of the player props, which I'll share with you later on the stream. But yeah, I'd probably lean Bills. I think that the Bills secondary has a chance to really be a difference maker in this game, because both these offenses are good. We know both these offenses can put up points, especially if they're playing well. But I actually think that the Bills defense has a higher ceiling than the Rams defense because of their secondary. The Bills were the number 1 defense in the league against deep passes last season. The number one defense in the league. No team let up less deep passing completions than the Buffalo Bills. And by the way, who led the league in deep passing yards last year? It was Matthew Stafford. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup to see how that shakes up. But the Bills do have a chance to really shut down the strength of the Rams with Cooper Kupp, with Allen Robinson. I do think we're going to see some pretty strong games out of both those guys. What players are you expecting a good game from tonight? Yeah, so let me just run through, first of all, the must-start players. And these should be, I think, relatively obvious, but we're going to run through them really quickly anyway. Obviously, you're starting Josh Allen. Obviously, you're starting Steph Diggs. Obviously, you're starting Cooper Kupp. Obviously, you're starting Allen Robinson. I'm not going to talk about those guys too much. These guys all should be in your starting lineup, basically no matter what. Fringe starts, though. These are guys that I think in dire situations, you can start these guys and they can definitely come through for you. But I don't have complete confidence in any of these three guys, Dawson Knox, Gabriel Davis, and Cam Akers. I was pretty against Gabriel Davis all offseason. That could definitely blow up in my face as soon as week one. I'm not going to hide from that. I could have been wrong about Gabe Davis, and of course I'll be open about being wrong a lot this season. But I'm not super excited about Gabe Davis in this matchup. I really want to see it from Gabe Davis before we trust him every week in our starting lineups. I get that it's exciting that he's attached to Josh Allen, which should be the highest scoring offense in the league this season. But I also want to caution people. He's never averaged more than 9 fantasy points per game in a season. We're really pricing in a big leap from Gabe Davis this season. And I just got to see it. I got to see it before I'm really have a lot of faith. And I don't think it'll be that shocking if Isaiah McKenzie has more yards than Gabriel Davis tonight. And obviously nobody's projecting that. We're not projecting that, but I do think it's possible. And let me show you really quickly. I don't think I have Gabe Davis in any of these projections, but we do have Isaiah McKenzie projected for 9.3 points tonight. He's probably my favorite sleeper tonight. He also happens to be my favorite player prop of the night. I do really like Isaiah McKenzie over 35.5 receiving yards tonight. You can find that prop line basically everywhere. He's supposed to be resuming the slot role for the Bills this year. He's going to be, or projected to be, the starting slot receiver for the Buffalo Bills, a position that was formerly held by Cole Beasley, who really was a shell of himself last year. He still had like a decent year. He had 82 catches, 700 yards at 33 years old last year. He averaged 43 yards a game. And this is the role that Isaiah McKenzie, who's 24 years old, who runs 85th percentile speed compared to Cole Beasley's 50th percentile speed. I like Isaiah McKenzie a lot tonight as a deep sleeper. I'm not starting him in any leagues, but I do like his prop over 35.5 receiving yards. And I do think low key, he could get more yards than Gabriel Davis. So I'm pumping the brakes a tiny bit on Gabe Davis. Depending on where you drafted him, though, my general philosophy with players in week one of fantasy football is you usually want to start the guys that you drafted earliest. And if you drafted Gabe Davis like in the first 6 rounds, you probably should be starting him. So those are some of my fringe starts, must starts, and my favorite player prop and who I'm taking in the game tonight. Again, I do take the Bills, but it's definitely really, really close. Hello, Walter. How's your day been? Choose 2. Miles Sanders, Breece Hall, and Brandon Ayuk. Man, the season is back. We're getting flooded with start-sit questions already, which is something you love to see. It's something you love to see, but also something that is, we're getting flooded with start-sit questions already, which is some echo here. I hate listening to my voice. The start-sit questions I'm going to be doing a little bit differently this year. I will answer some start-sit questions as always on every stream, but most of my start-sit questions are going to be withheld for the Sunday morning live. On the Thursday lives, though, I will try to answer as many questions that have to do with the Thursday night players. So I will prioritize those questions on Thursday night. And also, classic mistake, my name is not Walter. Walter is the AI algorithm that I helped build that powers the WalterPicks app to give it the best fantasy projections that you could possibly find. You can download the WalterPicks app completely free on the App Store and the Google Play Store to dominate your fantasy season. My name is Sam. It's a classic mistake, though, so don't worry about it. But going back to your comment, looks like I lost your comment, but it wasn't a Thursday night start-sit question. So yes, this is the start of Walter instead of Sam Yarjma. This is how you know the season is back, which is good. You love to see it. What are your thoughts on Cam Akers? Yeah, so I'm a little out again on Cam Akers. Let me pull this up one more time. I did just talk about Cam Akers a few minutes ago, but yeah, I'm starting Cam Akers if I need to, but I would really like to see 1 week out of Cam Akers before we put him in our starting lineup. I do think this could be a pretty pass-heavy game, but the Bills secondary is pretty good. Cam Akers has the best chance of probably any running back in this game at a touchdown. We've heard a lot of concerning rumblings, though, from the Rams this offseason that maybe Darrell Henderson's getting like almost as much work as Cam Akers, and that's definitely possible. Kmet or Higbee? Yeah, I'm going Kmet every single day of the week there. Let's look at the tight end situation tonight. One of my favorite dart throw props of the night is Dawson Knox to score a touchdown. I do like Knox tonight. I think that his props are also very reasonably priced tonight if you're looking for some props other than the Isaiah McKenzie one, which I do really like. But yeah, I'm starting Knox over Higbee 100% tonight. And I'm also starting Cole Kmet, I think, over both of them, especially because Velus Jones is looking like he's not going to play week 1, and he's supposed to be the number 2 receiver for the Bears, who are already extremely thin at receiver. I mean, week 1 for the Bears, it's going to be Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet, just the only 2 guys that really could command any sort of targets outside of David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert, of course. Higbee, Irv Smith, Hunter Henry, or David Njoku, full PPR. Yeah, I mean, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel here, Bennett, at tight end. And this is what happens when you don't get one of those elite tight ends. Hopefully you didn't pay up for any of these guys. It doesn't seem like you did, which is good. I do like Irv Smith in this game against the Packers, but he hasn't really been healthy the whole preseason. I definitely wouldn't go with Higbee, though. I don't hate throwing David Njoku in there either. It's probably between Irvin and Njoku for me. I'm a little out on Hunter Henry, though. He probably ranks best maybe amongst all these guys. Definitely a complete roll of the die, though. I mean, with these 4 guys, it's whichever guy, Bennett, that's going to fall into the end zone. I like Njoku, though, is a guy that I'm very intrigued to see how his target share works out. Full PPR, Gabe Davis or Travis Etienne. I mentioned it earlier. I'm a little out on Gabe Davis because I'm a little in on Isaiah McKenzie. And I think that there's a better chance than people realize that McKenzie could be pretty close to Gabe Davis this season in yards and targets. I do like Etienne a little bit more than Gabe Davis. And I also think if you drafted Travis Etienne, you got to soak up as much early season production from Etienne as you can as James Robinson's still getting back to full speed. Do you think there's a chance that James Cook will take the starting role this year? There's definitely a chance. 100% there is a chance. Is it likely? Probably not, but certainly within his range of outcomes. I think James Cook has a really wide range of outcomes, and especially towards the higher end. He also could be pretty worthless, though, in fantasy football all season. That's also possible. The reason that James Cook is exciting, though, is he profiles as a good receiver. He was a good receiving back in college. And so that's pretty exciting, a part of the Bills' offense. I do hope we get to see some action from him tonight. But it sounds like Zach Moss might still be involved, too. So I'm very interested to see how much run Zach Moss gets tonight. Hopefully it's none for fantasy football purposes. But if this is a 3-headed backfield, I mean, it's going to be one to avoid for most of the fantasy season. Because we also, of course, have Josh Allen stealing goal line carries. Again, for the start sit questions, I'll be live Sunday morning for basically like 4 hours, basically when I wake up till kickoff. And I'll prioritize the start sit questions in that stream. If you have start sit questions, though, for the Thursday night stream, the Thursday night game, those ones I'll prioritize. So if you start sit question with guys that are playing tonight, is Gabe worse than Mike Williams? Yes. MT, yes. DJ Moore, yes. I would say Gabe Davis is probably worse than all those guys. Got to be watching you again, Sam. PPR, by the way, at WalterPicks. Yeah, in PPR, too, I think Gabe Davis even gets this even bigger bump down against all 3 of these guys. I think I would go with, and I said on the stream, I was live yesterday talking with some of our creators yesterday, and I told a few people to bench Mike Thomas. I've thought about that a little bit more, and I feel like by the time Sunday rolls around and we know Michael Thomas is playing, I'm gonna change my mind on that. I think you should be starting Michael Thomas in week 1, and he gets the Falcons, guys. I mean, he's made an entire career feasting off the Falcons. I know we haven't seen him play in a long time, but nobody's dominated the Falcons like Michael Thomas and like Jameis Winston, over the last 5 years. I think there's a really good week 1 matchup for him if he is playing. I think the ceiling is there. There's obviously a pretty scary floor because we haven't seen him play in 2 years, but I'm willing to chase the ceiling in week 1 with Michael Thomas. And also, if he is playing, like how many games are we sure he's going to play this year? You're going to want to start him in the games where you have him. So I think you should be starting Michael Thomas. Sam, should I start Higbee since Kittle may be out this weekend? Yeah, Joey, thank you for sounding the alarm on this because I did want to touch on this in the live stream. Yeah, you got it. You got to sound the alarm. You have to sound the alarm on George Kittle. Get George Kittle out of your lineups. If you got to throw in Higbee, throw in Higbee. If you got to throw in Dawson Knox, I would be throwing in Dawson Knox over George Kittle. It's not looking like George Kittle is going to play this week. He might not even play next week. This is a really, really bad development for George Kittle. The other guy that had a really bad development just a few hours ago, Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore looking like he's not going to play in week one. And this has a pretty big impact on a team that's pretty thin at receiver with DeAndre Hopkins suspended. It's going to be Marquise Hollywood Brown, AJ Green, and I think Antoine Wesley is going to be the next man up. And most people probably have never even heard of Antoine Wesley, and for good reason. It might even be Andy Isabella getting some run for the Cardinals. It's probably good news for Benjamin and James Conner as well. The ceiling for Marquise Brown, man, in these first few weeks is just going to be so high. Definitely terrible news on Rondale Moore, who a lot of people were expecting him to take some of that Chase Edmonds role, take some of that Christian Kirk role from last year. But he has a hamstring injury and he's undergoing an MRI. So like really up in the air for week one. And who knows, how long that could potentially be out for. Love the content, bro. Got a question. Start 3. Kupp, Gabriel Davis, Ayuka the Bazooka, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Blake, thanks for tuning in, man. Appreciate the positivity. Love positivity. So I appreciate the positivity towards the content. We're gonna set some rules throughout this live stream over the course of the year, because I'll be live every single Thursday, every single Sunday, Thursday night, every single Sunday morning. We're not asking start-sit questions about Cooper Kupp. Just remove him from the questions. We're starting Cooper Kupp every single week, no matter what. Like almost on his bye week, maybe we're still starting Cooper Kupp. That's how good Cooper Kupp is. So yeah, we're starting Cooper Kupp. And don't ask about Cooper Kupp again the whole season, because we know we're going to start. He's really the consensus number 1 receiver heading into the season, or at worst number 2. So yeah, you're starting him. I would start Ayuka the Bazooka though, and Amon-Ra St. Brown over Gabe Davis. Again, I'm a little out on Gabe Davis. I think they all have similar ceilings, but I feel better about the floor for Ayuka the Bazooka and for Amon-Ra St. Brown than I do Gabe Davis. Again, I think there's a low-key chance we see Isaiah McKenzie do a little bit more than even Gabe Davis. Again, I'm not projecting that, but it is definitely possible. What about Juju? I'm starting Juju definitely in all leagues. Akers or Singletary? Yeah, let me pull up. And this is straight from the WalterPicks app, by the way, which you can download 100% completely free. And this 3-player comparison feature, that's a premium feature. So you can compare 2 players for free. And also in the free version, you wouldn't see the boom and bust probability. But again, you can compare as many players as you want for free. You'll see their projected points based on your custom league settings. That's in the WalterPicks app. Download that for free today. I've been spending the last 3 years of my life building this app free wall. But yeah, I'm taking Cam Akers over any other running back playing tonight, definitely. I don't feel great about any of them, though. And I would actually start, I think, Chase Edmonds over Pierce and Akers. I think I would start Pierce over Akers, though, too, because without a touchdown, I don't know what his receiving work is going to look like in this offense. I don't know how much Darrell Henderson's going to be involved. It's possibly as much as 50%. So I'm definitely a little nervous about Cam Akers. I got Akers, Dobbins, and Edmonds, full PPR. Yeah, I would start Edmonds over Akers. And definitely you're not starting Dobbins. Yeah, you get Dobbins as far away from your starting lineup as you possibly can for week one. Dobbins is going to be a long season play. If you got Dobbins, you got to hold up. You got to hold out hope that he gets to full speed. And that's not going to be in week one. It might not even be in the first month of the season. So definitely I would push for patience if you invested in Dobbins, because he's not going to return value until he's fully healthy. But I do like Edmonds a lot, especially in PPR leagues. I think he's going to get a big part of that receiving role. So yeah, I would start him over Cam Akers. This is another really interesting one from Owen. I think I would go Rashad Penny over Cam Akers as well. Rashad Penny is a guy that I don't have very much of in fantasy because I'm really down on the Seahawks in general. But we've seen Rashad Penny be efficient in a bad offense last season, and Kenneth Walker's trending towards doubtful for week one. So he also has almost no competition for touches. We're talking maybe 20 touches for Rashad Penny this week. And if that happens, even in a game where they're going to get crushed, even in a game against a pretty decent defense, I mean, you just look at the games. He only has 2 career games with 20 touches in his career. And in both those games, he went for over 25 fantasy points. I mean, he has a really, really, really high ceiling in a backfield that he has all to himself in week one. So yeah, I would probably lean Rashad Penny over Cam Akers. And again, we don't know how this backfield is going to split out between Cam Akers and Henderson. There's a chance that Cam Akers gets 80% of the touches tonight. There's also a chance he gets closer to 50%. That's a pretty wide range of outcomes for Akers, and I think that's a pretty good reason to keep him on your bench in this game tonight. One of the things I'm most excited for tonight, though, guys, let me pull this up. I mean, these receivers. I'm in on all 3 of these receivers pretty heavy. I think I have all of them in at least one lineup tonight. Allen Robinson's the guy I think I invested the most in, though, at around a 4th or 5th round price tag in most drafts. I mean, ESPN had him obnoxiously low in their rankings. But I'm in on all 3 guys. I really do like Allen Robinson tonight, though, and I'm excited to see Allen Robinson with a real quarterback. I mean, this is the first game we're ever going to see of Allen Robinson playing with a real NFL quarterback. So I am very, very, very excited for that as well. We are live on YouTube and TikTok right now. If you're watching live on TikTok, you can see what the sort of the photos that I'm pulling up on the screen a little bit easier on YouTube. You can find the YouTube live right in the TikTok bio. Appreciate everybody showing some love for the very first night of football. Let's do some rapid comments in TikTok for a second. Knox or Njoku? I'd lean Knox over Njoku. I will again prioritize the Thursday night questions. A-Rob or James Conner? That one's really close. I mean, James Conner is definitely a safer bet than A-Rob. I do like A-Rob, Allen Robinson a lot tonight, though. So if it's a PPR league, you might lean Allen Robinson, but I'd probably go with James Cook in that one. Again, sorry, not James Cook, James Conner in that one, because James Conner is also, again, Rondale Moore might not play this week now. He's getting an MRI on his hamstring. He went down with a hamstring injury today, like just a few hours ago that was reported. And that's definitely only good for James Conner. Zeke or Kamara? I mean, again, you got to start Kamara always. You're always starting Kamara. Sorry, I'm only going to be answering the Thursday night start take questions. Higbee or Brevin Jordan? Brevin Jordan's a really, really interesting sleeper this season. I did take him in a bunch of best ball leagues where he could be the slot receiver basically for the Houston Texans. He plays tight end, but he's only 22 years old. He is a pretty good size-adjusted athlete, and he played a decent amount in the slot last season, and there's no slot receiver. He had a 10% slot rate in the league, 10% slot rate last year, so 10% of his snaps came from the slot, 22 slot snaps, but they don't have any slot receiver this year. So if he does carve out that role, he could be interesting, but I'm not starting Brevin Jordan in week one, like absolutely not. So yeah, I would go Tyler Higbee over Brevin Jordan. We got another one here, another interesting Higbee one. Higbee versus Gerald Everett. And again, this is what we're doing at the tight end position every year. This is why I was taking Kyle Pitts in the third round, because there's just so much security in just locking in Kyle Pitts in your starting lineup every week. You get to start basically an elite receiver in your lineup, and then you're going up against Joey here, who's deciding between Higbee and Everett. I mean, it's just such a massive, massive advantage in fantasy football, as long as you can hit on some later round guys and you're okay sacrificing that third round pick. But going back to Joey's question here, Higbee or Everett? Yeah, I would lean towards Higbee in this one too. Everett is an interesting option. I think he's worth holding on to as a deep tight end streamer this year. But yeah, I think I would lean Higbee over Everett in this one. Burks or Dubs for the season? Yeah, it's got to be Burks, man. It's got to be Burks. And I feel like the hype for Romeo Dubs has maybe gotten a little out of control, but also the hate for Traylon Burks has gotten too out of control. I mean, Traylon Burks is still clearly the better prospect. Romeo Dubs was a 4th round pick. He went to Nevada. And Traylon Burks was the 18th overall pick in the draft. 93rd percentile target share, 93rd percentile college dominator rating. This guy was a beast after the catch. I think Traylon Burks still profiles as like a Jordy Nelson type level of player after the catch. So I do really like Traylon Burks. A-Rob or Deontay? Yeah, I would definitely go Allen Robinson with that one. And that might seem like a bold take to a lot of people, but we don't know what this Pittsburgh Steelers offense is going to look like. We do know Allen Robinson is going to be catching passes from by far the best quarterback that he's ever caught passes from. Let me see if I can pull up this list really quickly, because I mean it is an absolutely obnoxious list. Let me see if I can find this. The guys that Allen Robinson has caught passes with in his NFL career: Blake Bortles, Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, Justin Fields. This is Christian Hackenberg back in Penn State, Matt McGloin, and Christian Hackenberg were Allen Robinson's Penn State quarterbacks. And then he goes to the NFL and he's joined by Blake Bortles, Mitchell Trubisky, Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, and rookie Justin Fields. This is the quarterbacks that have thrown Allen Robinson passes since college. And tonight he gets Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl winner, Matthew Stafford, who just had a receiver have the best wide receiver fantasy season of all time. So yeah, I'm in on Allen Robinson. Get Allen Robinson into your starting lineups. I think the only one I've said no to tonight was Allen Robinson over James Conner. I wouldn't do that one. But yeah, I want Allen Robinson in my lineups, and I'm confident about him tonight. I would play him over Rashad Penny. Against Juju, I honestly would probably play him over Juju as well. I think there's a little bit more confidence there. But no like if you're looking at guys that got big quarterback upgrades, nobody got a bigger quarterback upgrade than Juju this offseason, going from Big Ben in the last year of his career to Pat Mahomes. So I like both guys a lot. I would play both though over Penny though, especially if it's a PPR league. Robinson or Mike Williams. I think I would actually lean towards Mike Williams though in that one. I think the ceiling for Mike Williams is just so high in this matchup against the Raiders too. A little bit better of a matchup than what A-Rob has tonight. So I'd probably lean him for that one. Again, let's look at the QBs tonight. Both guys are definitely startable in fantasy. Obviously, you're starting Josh Allen. Matt Stafford, though, is also startable. We got him projected for 23.6 points in a pretty tough matchup against a good Bills defense. No team had more deep passing yards in the league than Matthew Stafford last year. I thought it would be the Bucs. The Bucs did lead the league in passing yards. Matthew Stafford led the league in deep passing yards, so yards that came off deep passing plays. But no, defense was better against deep passing plays last year than the Buffalo Bills. Definitely a very legit secondary for the Buffalo Bills, so a little bit nervous about that. Trade Dak for J-Rob if I have Kyler, T-Law, and light on running backs. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. It's not like amazing, but I'm fine with it, especially if you're light on RBs and you already have a quarterback. Like, quarterbacks aren't very valuable. Backup quarterbacks do nothing for you in fantasy football. So yeah, I usually don't even like holding on to multiple QBs in single QB leagues. Aaron Rodgers or Trey Lance. You got to go Rodgers over Trey Lance. Hey Sam, love the app. Thanks, man. Thank you, Amar. Yeah, if there's one way you could possibly support me, obviously trying out the WalterPicks app and maybe even doing one of the premium subscriptions, the WalterPicks app. But if you're not comfortable with the subscriptions, which is fine, the subscriptions are not for everybody in the WalterPicks app, then the other number one way you could support is just tossing us a 5-star review in the App Store for the WalterPicks app. I've spent over 3 years of my life at this point working on the app. Costs you absolutely nothing to toss us a 5-star review. Literally takes 5 seconds to toss us a 5-star review in the iOS or Android App Store. So really do appreciate that. If you can take a second, especially if I do get to your comment or question. Judy for Allen Robinson, straight up. Yeah, I would do that at this point. I mean, A-Rob's definitely going ahead of Judy in terms of average draft position. So just alone right there, like you sort of know you're getting a value. I do really like Judy. I feel like I'm one of the few Judy stands left. I feel like, where did all the Judy stands go? They're all in hiding. They're all rooting for Cortland Sutton, and I like both guys a lot, but I think I like Allen Robinson more. Yeah, Allen Robinson's went 4 receivers. He's still 4 receivers ahead in terms of average draft position, which is not going to matter much longer, but I still like Allen Robinson a little bit more, I think, than Jerry Jeudy, even though Judy has a path, I think, to a higher ceiling than A-Rob, because we know there's no way Robinson's going to be, the 1A to Cooper Kupp's 1B in this offense. Like, Cooper Kupp's going to be the number 1 receiver in this offense, but Judy could have a path to being the number 1 guy in Denver. Nobody wants to give him that chance. People think it's definitely going to be Sutton. It's probably maybe at this point going to be Sutton, but I'm not going to say definitely going to be Sutton. But yeah, I would be comfortable with this trade. And I think it's a pretty fair trade. I mean, they're going pretty close to get together in drafts. Flex spot, we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here too. I mean, it doesn't look like Allen Lazard's going to play, and this isn't confirmed, or make sure you're tuning into the Sunday morning live where we'll go through all the guys that aren't going to play. But Allen Lazard might not play. And I mean, guys, go at Sammy Watkins. Like, if you're looking for a deep flex play, it's week 1 Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins has been in the league for quite some time, and it's a yearly annual tradition that you don't want to miss out on. Is week 1 Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins has been in the league for 8 years. He's played, I think, over 70 games, and over 10% of Sammy Watkins' fantasy football production in his career has come in week 1. Like, this is not a fluke. He dominates week 1, and now Allen Lazard is looking questionable. I'm not going to say doubtful. He's looking questionable for week 1. I don't think he practiced today, or if he did, he was definitely on a limited basis. Definitely not going to be playing Devin Duvernay over Rashad Penny either. So yeah, you're going Rashad Penny here, but I also would look into Sammy Watkins. I'm actually forcing him into my flex slot in one of my high stakes leagues over Devontae Smith. That's definitely a little bold, and I wouldn't recommend trying that on your own. But I gotta get some action on week 1 Sammy Watkins. I'll definitely be looking into his props too when the books release those. Stafford or Lance this week. This one's a really interesting one because, like, on one end, I like Matt Stafford. We got him projected for 23.6 points. That's top 12 projection for quarterback. He's definitely a safer bet than Lance, so I would probably lean Stafford. But I think Lance is going to surprise a lot of people this season in fantasy football. It feels like people have really cooled off on him. The Jimmy Garoppolo re-signing was surprising, and people are getting a little cold feet with Trey Lance. But guys, Trey Lance, like, he could average over 10 carries a game. And if he does that, he's going to be a top 6, top 7 quarterback in fantasy football. We do have to see it though. And the week 1 matchup isn't necessarily amazing against the Bears, where maybe they don't have to ask Trey Lance to do that much in week 1. But on the same side, the Bears defense is definitely better than the Bears offense. So I would probably lean Stafford. And again, this game also has a really high over-under, 52.5 point over-under tonight. And I almost never touch over-unders. I never really discuss over-unders because they're so good at setting these over-under lines. But I do use the over-unders for understanding how high scoring Vegas is thinking these games are going to be. And this one tonight should be a good one. And I think it's going to be pretty close to around 52 points scored tonight. So yeah, that's definitely a vote of confidence for Matt Stafford, even against a good Bills secondary. Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson. I feel good about Matt Stafford tonight. I would start him. And there's also some weird fear around Matt Stafford right now with the elbow. AJ Dillon or Chase Edmonds in week 1, or Allen Robinson. I start 2. Yeah, you got to start Allen Robinson, 100%, Bruce, especially in PPR leagues. It's important to understand your scoring settings when answering these questions. That's why the WalterPicks app is great, because in the WalterPicks app, you can sync your league and it will automatically update your settings, or you can just, if you're on the free version, just manually enter your settings, and that way it's all accounted for. Because in a non-PPR league, the answer to this question is definitely AJ Dillon and Chase Edmonds. But in a PPR league, I think it goes a little bit more towards Allen Robinson, Chase Edmonds. But also in a PPR league, especially with Alvin Lazard potentially being out, I really want to get AJ Dillon into my lineups too. I think Dillon and Edmonds are super close, but Allen Robinson 100%. My favorite player prop for tonight is Isaiah McKenzie over 35.5 receiving yards. I do like the Bills to win the game as well, but I don't feel very confident about that. I will pick every single game against the spread this season on my Thursday night and Sunday morning lives. I'll go through every single game and I'll keep track of my accuracy there. Last season, I was around 56%. Super hard to get an edge against spreads. Super hard. Almost impossible to get an edge on the over-unders. I'd almost never talk about the over-unders, but the player props is where I really spend 99% of my time throughout the season. And we've had insane accuracy on the player props. I think close to 65%, 63% on the player props over the last 2.5, 3 years. I like Isaiah McKenzie tonight over 35.5 receiving yards. Isaiah McKenzie, 85th percentile speed. He's going to be the starting slot guy, or projected to be the starting slot guy. I'm pretty confident he's going to start in the slot. He's going to be out there for the first snap for the Bills, playing in the slot. And he could beat this prop in one play with his speed. And this is also under where Cole Beasley averaged per game last year, and Cole Beasley was 33 last year. So I like Isaiah McKenzie a lot tonight. And for the season, I think he is a little bit underrated, while Gabe Davis is a guy that I think is a little bit overrated. Penny or Jacobs, need help. Been debating all week. Jeremy, this is a question where you got to tune into the Sunday morning live, where I'll answer more questions unrelated to the Thursday night game, though I would probably lean Penny to give you a little sneak peek. And also the WalterPicks app, guys, for all the start-sit questions. All the start-sit questions, you can do unlimited start-sit comparisons now in the WalterPicks app for completely free. You don't get all of the premium stats, but you can do as many comparisons as you want now, completely free in the WalterPicks app. All right, we got a trade question from Kylo here. The Thursday night lives, we will dabble in some trade talk. I think trading before week 1, a little bit ridiculous to be trading before week 1. Like I think I actually might be implementing a rule in my leagues this year, because I've been fleeced so many times in trades, trading too soon in the league year. Like I might wait till week 3 till I do any trades in my leagues, because I gotta have some faith in my drafting and see how things shake out. But in this trade, you're getting Cooper Kupp, you're getting Melvin Gordon, you're getting Tyler Higbee, and you're getting, it looks like, Deshaun Watson. That could be Christian Watson. Need a little bit more clarity on which Watson you're getting there. For Derek Carr, Goddard, and Mike Evans, yeah, you do this trade. 2 QB league. If that's Deshaun Watson, 100% you're doing this trade. Do this trade. You're giving up Carr. It is a 2 QB league. But you're getting a second quarterback. Hopefully you can go get another quarterback to play in that super flex. But Cooper Kupp, by far the best player in this trade. So I think I would do it, Kylo. I definitely don't hate that one at all. A-Rob, Edmonds, or Sutton, full PPR. It's A-Rob or Sutton. It's definitely between those two. It's really close, honestly, between those two. I don't think Edmonds is in the conversation. Again, depends on the scoring settings. I always do appreciate in the start-sit questions. What scoring settings do you have? PPR, half PPR, non-PPR. This is also why, again, it's really great using something like the WalterPicks app, which I've spent the last 3 years myself personally working on it and building, and it's completely free to download in the iOS and Android app store. And that does account for your settings. It does say full PPR. Look at me, Carson. I'm saying, you tell me the settings. And look, you literally already told me the settings. So thank you, Carson. Yeah, and for full PPR, I think I'd lean Sutton just slightly. Just slightly. I think his ceiling is really, really high. And the Seahawks are so bad. Like the That's probably the tiebreaker for me. Like I think A-Rob and Sutton, they're really comparable players this year. Sutton did, I think, go a little earlier in drafts by the end. Like Sutton was going wide receiver 16 on average in drafts. A-Rob was going 19th. And Sutton does have a better matchup this week. He's playing the Seahawks, and A-Rob's playing a pretty good Bills secondary. So I would probably lean Sutton in this one. And I know it's Thursday night. We got a very exciting game. Yeah, Harris, lock that in, 32.5. I'm taking as high as 35.5. And it was actually as low as 23.5, like not that long ago. But I think I actually locked a few in at 28.5 for Isaiah McKenzie. But yeah, 32.5. We're taking that all day long. He could do that he only needs 2 or 3 catches, and he could easily do that. Hey, Sam, got Kittle. Should I start Knox tonight or risk it and play Kmet on Sunday if Kittle can't go? PPR. Greg, thank you for asking this one. This is probably the most important question of the night because there's at least one team in every league that's thinking about this one, Greg. Because you got George Kittle. You spent an early draft pick on him. You probably took him in the first 5 rounds, 6 rounds of your draft. And it's not looking great for him now to start the season. He could sit out week 1. Aaron Wilson reported that George Kittle could sit out week 1 due to a groin injury he suffered in practice this Monday. He said Wednesday Kittle is considered day-to-day, but he hasn't practiced since. And that's definitely concerning. And it's early in the season. They're probably going to be cautious with Kittle. I think if you have George Kittle, assume he's out. Just assume he's out. At this point, he hasn't practiced. It's Thursday. He only has a couple days to get into practice. Assume he's out. I would not risk the donut in your lineup. And it's great that you have Kmet as a backup option, but I would probably go Dawson Knox over Kmet. I actually like Kmet a lot, but Dawson Knox I think is a little bit better of an option than Kmet. In a game with a 52.5 total tonight, Kmet's playing in a game, the Bears game, I think actually has one of the lowest over-unders of the week, maybe even like a 20-point difference. I think the difference in over-under between those two games is like astonishing. And at the end of the day, with really all these tight ends outside of the top guys like Kittle, you're just hoping they fall in the end zone. And if they don't fall in the end zone, they're probably scoring less than 6-7 fantasy points. Like it's going to be a bad week in your tight end slot. That's why I was so aggressively getting Kyle Pitts in my leagues. But yeah, I would probably lean Knox over Kittle. I definitely would go Knox over Kittle, and I'd lean Knox over Kmet as well. Greg, thanks for asking this one. Yeah, I would definitely get George Kittle out of your lineups. And if that means forcing in Tyler Higbee, if that means forcing in Dawson Knox, I think that's what you got to do for this Thursday night game. Guys, football is back. We are about an hour and a half away from real football on our real TV screens. I can't wait, man. Who has the better week 1, Josh Allen or Justin Herbert? Yeah, I would probably lean towards Josh Allen. Hey, Sam, happy PR. James Cook or DJ Chark? Yeah, this is a good one. Definitely for these deeper leagues. James Cook is going to be a guy that's in consideration, but you can't start him in week 1. We don't know what the role is going to be. There's even a possibility that Zach Moss is ahead of James Cook. I think James Cook was listed number 2 on the unofficial depth chart, but there is some rumblings that Zach Moss could still have a small role in this offense. Devin Singletary is expected to lead the backfield, of course. I think DJ Chark's ceiling is way higher, even though it's not full PPR. With Jameson Williams out, I think DJ Chark was a really good sleeper in fantasy drafts. I would lean Chark. I would also play Sammy Watkins over James Cook. He's a guy that might be available in a lot of leagues as well. Sutton or Watkins at flex, full PPR. And this isn't a Thursday night question, but come on. As much as I like week 1 Sammy Watkins, like you got to be playing. You got to be playing Sutton over him. Should I start Penny or Dobbins T-Money in the TikTok live? This is not a Thursday night question, T-Money, but I would probably lean towards Penny. I don't want anything to do with Dobbins in week 1. I mean, you can't start J.K. Dobbins. And if you invest in J.K. Dobbins, you got to view it as a long-term investment. You got to give him at least 6 weeks until you really know what you have with J.K. Dobbins. We got to see him at full speed, getting the type of volume he can get, which is like 15 plus carries a game. I don't think he's going to get that this week. I don't think he's going to get that probably even next week. Hey, Sam, any sleeps in FanDuel tonight or guys who love their price? Yeah, my general favorite deep guy, and I actually haven't looked at the prices on FanDuel, I'm going to be totally honest with you, but I'd assume his price is pretty low, is Isaiah McKenzie. And that's the same thing with the player props that I'd like. I do like Isaiah McKenzie to go over 33.5 receiving yards. I think there's low-key a chance he has a better game than Gabriel Davis. So I do like Isaiah McKenzie as a deep sleeper tonight. And I also like Darrell Henderson as a pretty deep sleeper in DFS too, because I think there's a chance he gets half the work in the backfield. Who knows how the red zone is going to work out? But if he gets half the work in this backfield, he's going to probably return value on FanDuel and on DraftKings at I presume, a much lower price than what Cam Akers is at. We got a question with Allen Robinson here, And this one really boils down to A-Rob versus Juju. You're going to start A.J. Brown. You're going to start Michael Pittman. Like, Luke, lock those guys in. Between A-Rob and Juju, I lean A-Rob just slightly. Both guys got huge quarterback upgrades, obviously, this offseason, but I lean Allen Robinson just by a tiny, tiny margin, but it's really close. And obviously, both games are going to be super high scoring. Juju does have a better matchup against the Cardinals than A-Rob against the Bills, but I think I would lean towards Allen Robinson being, for sure the number 2 passing option for the Rams. Juju is probably number 2 for the Chiefs, but that's not a locked-in thing. Thursday night, A-Rob or Akers full PPR. This one's super easy. It's got to be A-Rob. So we have Akers projected for 12.4 full PPR points, and we have Allen Robinson projected for 15.3 PPR points. Again, these projections courtesy of the WalterPicks app. Download the WalterPicks app completely free today to access these projections 100% free. We're giving our projections away for free this year. You got to subscribe for League Sync. You got to subscribe for this 3-player comparison feature you're seeing on my screen right now. And you got to subscribe for the boom and bust probabilities and some other key premium features. But these projected points, you guys can see completely free right now. Go to the WalterPicks app. You can compare all the players you want as many times as you want this season against all scoring systems too. So any of these start-sit questions that you guys are asking me can actually be better answered by the WalterPicks app. So definitely check it out. It's on Android and Apple. But yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards A-Rob over Akers in a full PPR league. I'm excited for Allen Robinson, man. I was just reading off the quarterbacks that he's played with in his career. But guys, even going back to college, this is a thing. There's not a wide receiver that's had worse quarterback luck than Allen Robinson. It's an amazing how much production he's had up to this point, given that. You go back to college, he had Matt McGloin and Christian Hackenberg, 2 of the worst NFL quarterbacks. Both got a shot in the NFL, likely only because of Allen Robinson from their college days. And then he goes to the NFL. He plays with Blake Bortles, Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, and rookie Justin Fields. I mean, he's maybe getting the best quarterback by like 150%, 200% that he's ever played with in his entire career. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. Carr or Stafford this week? This one's definitely a really, really tough one. I do like both guys a lot this week. I don't have a very strong conviction, honestly, on this answer. I would probably lean towards Carr, who I think has a better matchup. But, I mean, there's so many question marks with the Raiders, with a new coach, with Devontae Adams, obviously. But I think Adams' ceiling is so high with Devontae Adams. Obviously, Stafford's got Cooper Kupp. But, like, the Bills' defense scares me a lot more than the Chargers' defense does. So, I think I would probably go in that direction. Michael Thomas or Allen Robinson? Yeah, this one I'm definitely going A-Rob over Michael Thomas. Will Gabriel Davis have any value tonight for flex? I have Renfro there now. Yeah, I would probably stick Renfro in there, especially if it's a PPR league. I saw that comment on the TikTok live. The concern with me about Gabe Davis is that we're overestimating his role just by a little bit. We're really all wish casting Gabriel Davis into this every down sort of alpha number 2 receiver role for the Bills. But I think Isaiah McKenzie could see similar amount of snaps. I think that even Jameson, Elite Crowder could mix in a tiny bit. And if that happens, I'm a little nervous for Gabe Davis's floor. I think he's going to have a really high ceiling, just like everyone in this offense every week, though. But yeah, I would definitely start. I think I would start Michael Thomas over Gabriel Davis. I think I'd start Allen Robinson over Gabriel Davis as well. Start 2. Waddle, A-Rod, Godwin. You can't start Chris Godwin. He's probably not going to play. It's honestly amazing that he's even possibly going to play. But if he does play, yeah, you still can't start him. He's not 100% probably yet. So definitely just start these other 2. The same thing goes for J.K. Dobbins. You can't start J.K. Dobbins in week 1. You can't start Chris Godwin in week 1. Once Gallup comes back, you're not going to want to start Michael Gallup. Hit the first week he's back. Like, give these guys a chance to get up to full speed. Then let's start them. And I sort of feel the same way about Cam Akers. I know Cam Akers played all throughout the playoffs and the last week of last season. He's been mostly healthy this offseason. He did pick up a hamstring injury like in the last couple of weeks that apparently he's over now, but I got to see it from Cam Akers. We haven't seen burst from Cam Akers in basically 2 years. I think he was getting a little overdrafted for that exact reason. He did tear his Achilles. We have never to date seen a running back come back and be relevant in fantasy football following an Achilles injury. Obviously, we got a few chances at that changing this year. But I think that Cam Akers, like, his floor is pretty low. He could only get half the touches in this backfield. It could be a pretty pass-heavy game as well if the Bills' offense is able to put up points, which I think they will be able to put up points. Arguably the best offense in the league is the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills also have a better defense than the Rams. In my opinion, they have a better secondary. That's why I'm taking the Bills to win tonight. So yeah, I would probably lean Antonio Gibson. And all of a sudden, Antonio Gibson became maybe one of the steals of fantasy drafts towards the end there with what happened to Brian Robinson. And it sounds like he's actually recovering great. He might be back at some point, towards the midway point of the season. But Antonio Gibson looks so much better without Brian Robinson in the mix. All of a sudden, like he's a much better asset, in my opinion, than Cam Akers. Robert Woods or Ayuka, the Bazooka, not a Thursday night question. I probably would lean Ayuka the Bazooka, though. Let me run through one more time my must-start players tonight, and these should be obvious, but this is how I'm going to do every Thursday night live. I'm going to be live every Thursday night, the entire season. This is one of many Thursdays to come. I love Thursday nights. It's the start of a new week. It's the start of a new season tonight, and I'm going to be giving you my must-start players in fantasy. I'm going to be giving you my fringe starts, guys that you definitely can consider starting, but I don't have 100% complete confidence in. And then I'm going to give you my favorite player prop, and also, of course, who I like in the game against the spread. First of all, must starts. I mean, yeah, you're starting Josh Allen. Obviously, you're starting Steph Diggs. Obviously, you're starting Cooper Kupp. Obviously, the last one maybe isn't so obvious in all situations, but you can start Allen Robinson with a decent amount of confidence tonight. We haven't projected over 15 fantasy points in PPR leagues tonight. I think he's got a good chance at a TD. I think he's got a good chance at 70-plus receiving yards. I wouldn't shock me if he goes over 100 receiving yards. This is by far the best offense he's ever played in, by far the best quarterback he's ever had, and they're probably going to be in a shootout against the Bills, a 53.5 over under. So start all of these guys. Some fringe starts. Matt Stafford's definitely a fringe start. I didn't put him on here, but he's definitely a fringe start as well, depending on your quarterback situation. Like I have Matt Stafford in one league where I also got Kyler Murray. So I'm not going to start Matt Stafford over Kyler Murray, but you should be considering Dawson Knox. I actually, one of my favorite sort of dart throw props of the day is Dawson Knox has scored TD. Members of the WalterPicks team in Slack, they're tossing around Dawson Knox first TD conversation today. I don't hate that either. I think Dawson Knox does have a pretty good chance at a touchdown today. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey, one of the top corners in the league. I think people overrate Jalen Ramsey in fantasy a little bit too much. There's always so much Jalen Ramsey discourse. Who's Jalen Ramsey going to be on? And Jalen Ramsey usually doesn't shadow. Well, usually he doesn't shadow one guy. And so it's a little bit overkill with the Jalen Ramsey thing. But he also allowed 160 yards to Jamar Chase in the Super Bowl, but that was the only 100-yard performance he allowed the entire season. So obviously it does matter who Jalen Ramsey's on, but I think he's going to be sort of on a lot of different guys throughout the course of the game. But he's not going to be on Dawson Knox, so I don't hate the Dawson Knox play tonight. Gabriel Davis is a guy you should be considering in your starting lineups, especially depending on where you drafted him. If you drafted him in the top 7 rounds, this is week 1, guys. Like, outside of the injuries to guys like J.K. Dobbins, Chris Godwin, George Kittle, like you should start the guys you drafted early. Have some confidence in your drafting, and we can sort of figure it out week 2. That's usually my philosophy. One other exception to that, though, is week 1 Sammy Watkins. Like I'm tossing in week 1 Sammy Watkins in one of my high-stakes leagues over Devontae Smith, which is definitely a suboptimal play. But, man, I need a piece of the action in week 1 with Sammy Watkins, who has scored over 10% of his 8 years worth of production in fantasy football. Over 10% of his productions come in week 1. The week 1 Sammy Watkins thing is real. Cam Akers is another guy, fringe start. I don't feel great about starting him. We haven't seen him have burst in over 2 years since the Achilles injury. We've never seen a running back come back from an Achilles injury and perform consistently in fantasy football. Akers might be the new norm. Who knows? I believe in medicine getting better. We've seen ACL recovery timelines improve drastically over the last few years, so I'm definitely not ruling it out. But I also just want to see it for Cam Akers before trusting him in my fantasy lineups. And there's been some chatter that maybe Darrell Henderson could get up to half the work in this backfield. So, yeah, I'm a little nervous about Cam Akers. Definitely a fringe start, not a must start for me tonight. My favorite player prop tonight, Isaiah McKenzie, over 35.5 receiving yards. I'll be keeping track of my record on this, by the way, throughout the whole season. Last year, the props in the live stream absolutely smashed. The free props in the live stream smashed. I think we were at like 69% on the props last year on the live stream, about 63% of the props that you can find in the WalterPicks app. We're actually showing all the props against their lines and Walter's projections in the WalterPicks app in the player prop evaluator tool this year, a new tool in the WalterPicks app. So not just Walter's favorite props, you can analyze all the props using Walter's projections this year. Last but not least, I do like the Bills to win tonight and cover the spread of 2.5, but I don't feel strong about this one. Definitely not going to say it's a lock. I think this is a pretty dead-on spread. Obviously, the Bills are on the road. Also, Super Bowl teams in week one have actually Super Bowl winning teams in week one have actually performed pretty well in recent history. Allen Robinson or DK in a PPR league. That one's definitely close, but I'm going A-Rob there as well. And I'm nervous about DK Metcalf in fantasy this season. Obviously, he's going to have some massive weeks. Like DK Metcalf is going to have some colossally massive weeks, like weeks where he's a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy, even with Geno Smith and Drew Lock. But he's also going to have some absolute duds, like we saw last season, back in week 12, 2.3 points for DK Metcalf in that game. That was actually just a random game. That was his worst game of the season that I just cherry picked there. But he's going from Russell Wilson to Drew Lock and Geno Smith. And Geno Smith starting week 1. I don't feel great about him. I would probably go with Allen Robinson. Who do you think is going to win? Yeah, Bruce, I'm going with the Bills tonight. I think the Bills are a better team than the Rams. I think the Bills have a better offense than the Rams. I think the Bills have a better defense than the Rams. But it's certainly close. And both offenses are really good. Both defenses are really good. I think that the Bills secondary, though, is better than the Rams secondary. And the Bills were actually the number 1 secondary in the league last year against deep passes. And the Rams were the number 1 offense in the league throwing it deep. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup there. Obviously, we got a lot of strengths against strengths in this matchup. But yeah, I'm leaning towards the Bills, not feeling super strong about it, though. And there will be games, I promise you, on Thursday nights. And definitely when we go live Sunday morning, there'll be games I feel very confident in and that I'll even call locks, dare I say. And those have hit around a 65% rate for me over the last couple of years. But this is not one of them. I don't feel very strongly about this one. But I am taking the Bills, and I will keep track of my overall accuracy throughout the season too. Christian Kirk or Allen Robinson in a PPR league. This one's close, man. This one's definitely close. I want to start Christian Kirk in week 1. He's going up against the Washington football team, and I don't think you could have cherry-picked a better week 1 matchup for the Jacksonville Jaguars than the Washington Commanders. Like, this is a team that had arguably the worst secondary in the league last year, and Jacksonville gets massive improvements in the passing game. First of all, they lose Urban Meyer. They add a much better coach. And then they also signed Christian Kirk this offseason. They also signed Zay Jones this offseason. They also get Travis Etienne back this offseason. So I'm feeling good about the Jaguars. And yeah, I think I might lean Kirk over A-Rob. That's probably not what our projections say. I would guess A-Rob probably works out better in the projections. But just based on the matchups alone, Allen Robinson versus the Bills, Christian Kirk versus Washington, I think I might lean towards Christian Kirk there. It's certainly really, really close, though. Let me again show you. I mean, these are the 3 guys I think are pretty close to must starts. I bet Christian Kirk's closer to like the 12-13 projection range, but I would argue that his ceiling is higher than Allen Robinson's in a game against Washington. I'm really in on Christian Kirk this season. Carr or Hurts? Derek Carr or Jalen Hurts? Not a Thursday night question. So make sure you tune into the Sunday morning live. We'll get to more of the Sunday start sit questions and the Monday night questions as well. But also check out the WalterPicks app. If you do have start sit questions, you can answer as many of them as you want in the WalterPicks app. Just go to the start sit tool. You can do unlimited comparisons, completely free, custom to your league settings, and you'll see the projected points. You do have to do either the 7-day free trial or one of the premium subscriptions starting as little as $10 a month. And it's the number 1 way you could possibly support me is tossing us a sub in the WalterPicks app. And that will unlock some more premium stats and the ability to compare 3 players like you were just seeing on the screen. But you can compare infinitely many players for free too in the WalterPicks app. So if you do have start sit questions, I mean, there's no better place. There's no more accurate projections. Nobody takes projections more seriously, the accuracy of them, than WalterPicks, and it's completely free in the App Store. So definitely check it out. I think we're actually number 11 in the sports app rankings right now, which is also absolutely insane. So shout out everyone for the support. Thursday question: A-Rob or Hollywood Brown in a PPR league? You can't bench Hollywood Brown this week, guys. No benching Hollywood Brown. As much as I like Allen Robinson tonight, I do like A-Rob tonight. You can't bench Hollywood Brown against the Chiefs, especially now with this Rondale Moore injury. The 2 players to sound the alarm on tonight, by the way, if you haven't read the news, sound the alarm on George Kittle, get him out of your lineups, assume that he's out. Assume George Kittle's out. That's not confirmed, but it's bad enough that we can assume he's out. Also, assume the worst with Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore is getting an MRI. He went down today, and that's even more confidence that I'm going to have now in Hollywood Brown. So yeah, I would probably go Hollywood Brown in a game that's going to be a massive shootout against the Chiefs. And we know that Kyler Murray can throw it deep to Marquise Brown. Thursday question, Isaiah McKenzie or Marvin Jones PPR. Yeah, I'm leaning Isaiah McKenzie here. I do like Isaiah McKenzie. He's actually my player prop tonight, over 35.5 receiving yards. I like him a lot. We actually just got word he is officially active. Wasn't in doubt. He had a full week of full practices. It's him and Jamison Crowder sort of vying for these slot snaps. It's unclear exactly how that's going to shake out. But reports are Isaiah McKenzie is going to get the first crack at it. He's going to be the starting slot receiver. And we've seen Josh Allen targeted slot receiver a decent amount over the past few years. Cole Beasley has had a pretty big role in this offense. He had 700 yards last season, 82 catches. He averaged over 43 receiving yards per game. So yeah, I like it. I like McKenzie as a better player too than Cole Beasley, who was 33 years old last year. McKenzie's closer to 24 years old, and he's also significantly faster he's 27. McKenzie's 27 years old, but he's also significantly faster, 88th percentile speed. And Jamison Crowder's, as much as I love Jameson Elite Crowder, he definitely doesn't have the speed of Isaiah McKenzie too. So I think Isaiah McKenzie really has carved a unique role in this offense that no one else can really provide. Cole Kmet or Dawson Knox, I like Kmet this season, but I'd still lean towards Dawson Knox because ultimately what you're doing at the tight end position, if you didn't get one of these elite guys, and again, Peter, this is why I was vying for you to take Kyle Pitts in the third round, because now you're going to be every single week. You're going to be losing sleep. Do I go Cole Kmet? Do I go Dawson Knox? And at the end of the day, it's whichever guy falls into the end zone is going to do significantly better. And I think Dawson Knox has a better chance to do that. So I would go with Dawson Knox, but also both guys could easily go under 10 fantasy points this week. So I would probably lean Knox, but both guys do have some upside this season. I do like Kmet long term. But yeah, I think I would go with Dawson Knox for the ceiling. We got here A-Rob, Sutton, and Jalen Waddle, full PPR. Yeah, you got to start Jalen Waddle. He has been questionable, but I do think he's going to play. Sutton versus A-Rob is really close. I think I would lean Sutton, though, over Allen Robinson. Sutton was getting picked before Allen Robinson this whole offseason. He ended the season around only three wide receivers in terms of ADP. Sutton was going wide receiver 16. Allen Robinson was going wide receiver 19. But then if you look at the matchups in week one, Sutton also was a better matchup against a abysmal Seahawks secondary. And we got A-Rob against a good Bills secondary. So yeah, I think I would go with Sutton over Allen Robinson. Guys, the season is back. Football is back. We got the start-sit questions rolling in, and I couldn't be happier, man. We got real football that we're gonna be watching in about an hour now. About an hour. I have probably 15 minutes left on this live stream. I'll probably be wrapping up the live in about 25 minutes. So I will go rapid fire in the comment section to wrap up the live. Again, let me just really quickly, 30 seconds. I'll give you the full rundown of basically all my thoughts in this game. First of all, guys, you have to start. Josh Allen, Steph Diggs, Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson. Lock those guys in your starting lineup. A-Rob is maybe a little bit closer to a fringe start, so I put him last. I would start Sutton over Allen Robinson. There are a few guys I would start over Allen Robinson, but regardless, you're in a good spot if you're starting Allen Robinson this week. I think he does have a really high ceiling. Fringe starts: Dawson Knox, Gabe Davis, Cam Akers. I'd add Matt Stafford to this list too. I think you can feel okay starting Matt Stafford. I think we have him right around the top 12 quarterbacks in our rankings in the WalterPicks app. I'm a little nervous about Gabe Davis, but if you drafted him really early, you probably should be starting him. But I do also like Isaiah McKenzie tonight. I don't even think I spelled his name right. That's probably bad juju for this prop that I didn't even spell Isaiah McKenzie's name right. Sorry about that, Isaiah, if you're watching this. But yeah, I do like Isaiah McKenzie over 35.5 receiving yards tonight as well. And I also like the Bills to win the game. I think the Bills have a better offense and defense than the Rams, but it's extremely close. And I don't feel really strongly about the pick against the spread. That's just what my gut is telling me with the Bills over the Rams, but it's really close. Definitely either team can win this game tonight. And the Bills are 2.5-point favorites tonight in Los Angeles. Thursday question from Aaron. Aaron, by the way, the number one way you could support me and to support this live stream is tossing us a 5-star review in the App Store for the WalterPicks app, especially if I can get to your question. I will try to get to as many questions over the next 15 minutes as I possibly can, especially the Thursday night questions. But I really do appreciate it. It takes you 5 seconds. Toss us a 5-star review in the iOS or Google Play app stores. All right, pick 2. Travis Etienne, Allen Robinson, James Conner. Yeah, I'd go the last 2 here. Let's see what we get from Travis Etienne. I do really like Etienne in week 1, but I think I like A-Rob and James Conner more. I think James Conner's in a tier well above Etienne, honestly, in week 1. And Allen Robinson, I think, is as well. Travis Etienne, though, he's a guy that I'm okay starting, depending on what your start-sit decision is. And again, we can also answer all these start-sit questions in the WalterPicks app. 100% completely free to do infinite comparisons, and you can do a premium sub for even more deeper insights into your start sit comparisons. Sam, should I trade Fournette and Waddle for CD in a half PPR league? I'm big on CD, and Walter says yes. You're probably giving up a little bit too much. I'm honestly a little surprised that Walter does say yes. Obviously, I don't know the full context of your league settings, and Walter does. It depends on your running back situation. If your running back situation is still okay after giving up Fournette without getting running back in return here, you're clearly getting the best player in the trade. So I'm okay with it. And I love getting the best player in trades. And I'm also very in on a CeeDee Lamb breakout season. I actually made a small wager that CeeDee Lamb would lead the league in receptions this season, which is definitely possible. Like, that is within CeeDee Lamb's range of outcomes. And if that happens, man, he's a top 3 fantasy football wide receiver. Maybe he's number 1. So yeah, I'm okay with the trade. I do think it's a fair trade overall too. Like, you're clearly giving up a lot of value to get him. But I generally, like, I think you're kind of savage in general for trading before week 1. Like, it's straight savagery trading before week 1, because like it's so clear where every player was picked in your draft. So like, someone's usually eating an L, and that trade was actually really fair because you were giving up two good players for one great player. But still, I'll still have Kamara and Eckler, so I'm good at RB. Yeah, Brad, you got to do this trade, man. Lock it in. Kamara, Eckler, and CeeDee Lamb all on the same team. I mean, just take the trophy now. How do you feel about Breece and Dameon Pierce for the season? I love this question. I'm starting to get nervous about how hard I was fading Dameon Pierce, and his player prop week 1 is actually around 50 rushing yards, which I think is really fair, and he could easily go over that in week 1. I like Breece Hall, though, way more for the season. Like back half of the season, Breece Hall has a significantly better chance to win leagues than Dameon Pierce does, because Breece Hall could get the pass catching work. Dameon Pierce, this is the thing, and why I was a little out on Dameon Pierce as the hype was getting just too insane for me, is he's probably not going to have a pass catching role for the Houston Texans. Rex Burkhead's probably going to have that role. So we're betting on sort of touchdown upside with Dameon Pierce, because he's not going to catch passes, especially in PPR leagues. We're going to need him to score touchdowns. But, oh, wait, he plays for the Houston Texans. So it's I'm a little more worried about Dameon Pierce, though I still think he's very talented, and I do still think he could get 15 to 20 touches a game. And if that happens, he's going to be viable in fantasy. But with Breece Hall, the talent is uncomparable to Dameon Pierce. The talent for Breece Hall is really off the charts, and I don't think this has gotten much attention because he didn't really show it in the preseason. Like, we've gotten a small buy window for Breece Hall in Dynasty and in season-long leagues, and I think that buy window might stretch out a little bit longer. Like, I'm definitely going to be sending some trade offers for Breece Hall in the coming weeks if he starts slow, because the talent is undeniably there. He's a 98th percentile athlete. He compared to Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley in terms of his pure athleticism, and he wasn't too far off those guys in terms of his college production either. He was a beast at Iowa State, set the all-time record for the most games in a row with a touchdown. Like, the fact that we're even talking about Dameon Pierce in the same vein as Breece Hall in fantasy right now it's a little ridiculous. So I like Breece Hall long-term, but I would expect Dameon Pierce to start the season stronger than Breece Hall, given that Michael Carter will be involved early on. Thursday question, pick 3, A-Rob, Deontay, Sutton, and Tony Pollard in a PPR league. Matt, thanks for tuning in. Thank you all for tuning in. By the way, really do appreciate you supporting the stream. I can't wait to watch this game tonight. I think between A-Rob, Deontay, Sutton, and I love that you tossed in Pollard here, because I love Tony Pollard, man. I am starting him in a few leagues, but I think in a PPR league, you'd be kind of crazy to start Pollard over any 3 of these guys. So I'd probably just start these 3 receivers, all 3 of them really good options in PPR leagues. And I do really like Pollard, but you don't need to start Pollard with these 3 receivers, especially in a PPR format. So I start Romeo Doubs if Lazard and Watson are confirmed out. It doesn't look like Watson's gonna be confirmed out. Also, it looks like we gotta monitor Robert Tonyan too, because all of a sudden Robert Tonyan might be playing in week 1. So the whole Packers receiving core, I mean, it's in total shambles, total uncertainty right now with how that's gonna be shaped out. But I think Doubs is like almost definitely playing. Allen Lazard is a big question mark right now. It's very questionable if he's gonna play. There's no way I'm starting Romeo Doubs in any season-long fantasy leagues. This week I am starting Sammy Watkins, though, in one season-long fantasy league. I would prefer Watkins over Doubs for week 1, just week 1. Sammy Watkins, this is what's going to happen. Sammy Watkins, I'm starting him in one high-stakes league. I'm starting him over Devontae Smith. Again, probably suboptimal, but I want some action on week 1 Sammy Watkins. But this is what's going to happen in this league. Sammy Watkins is going to put up a 20-plus point week 1 performance, as he does. He's had over 10% of his 8 years in the league. Over 10% of Sammy Watkins' fantasy points have come in week 1, which is crazy. That's like half as much, maybe even less than that, as we would expect. he's going to have a big week, and then I'll probably just send him straight back to the waiver wire because after week 1, like we're not expecting much from Sammy Watkins. But yeah, I would hold on to Romeo Doubs. He could be really talented in a sort of lackluster receiver group, but I don't think I'm starting in week 1. And honestly, all the Packers receivers, like I think the ball is going to be spread around a lot to all of the receivers, and there might not be a consistent guy throughout the fantasy season, which might not be good for fantasy football purposes. We got Ryan. Why'd you draft Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts? That's my main question for you, but you're starting Lamar over Jalen Hurts for sure. Lamar Jackson is he another guy who just has a beautiful week 1 matchup. He gets the Jets in week 1, and that's very good for him. Isaiah McKenzie or Kadarius Toney? I would go Kadarius Toney, definitely over Isaiah McKenzie. And I do like Isaiah McKenzie tonight. He actually is my favorite prop of the night. I'm taking him over 35.5 receiving yards. Start Cam Akers. He's a fringe start for me. I don't think he's a must start. I think he's a fringe start. And I would start Tony Pollard over him. I would start Chase Edmonds over him. I don't think I would start Dameon Pierce over him, but it's pretty close. I would definitely start AJ Dillon over him. There's a lot of guys in that range, and this is why I wasn't drafting Cam Akers really at all. I don't have him on a single team. He wasn't on the do not draft list, though he could have been. I think his ceiling is really high. I just think his floor is really scary. Like if Darrell Henderson gets half the work in this backfield, and he gets the bulk of the targets in this backfield, and who knows exactly how the red zone work is going to shake out. Like Cam Akers might be a touchdown dependent running back in a game that might be a shootout too. So I'm a little nervous about Cam Akers. We do have him projected for 12 points tonight in the WalterPicks app. Again, you can do as many start sit comparisons in the WalterPicks app as you want this season, custom to your league scoring settings too. But I'm a little nervous about Cam Akers. This is how we have the running backs shaking out tonight. I know it's a little small if you're watching live on TikTok. We are live on YouTube too, so you can watch live on YouTube as well. The link is in the TikTok bio if you are watching live on TikTok. How do you think the Bills defense does tonight? Yeah, this is I'm very especially it feels like the first game of the season, not just like the first game of the season for everyone, but like the first game in the league on this Thursday night is always wild. Like it almost never. A couple years ago, it was extremely low scoring. Last year was it was the Buccaneers and the Cowboys, extremely high scoring. Tonight we got two good defenses going against two very good offenses, and I'm more nervous, I'd say, about the Rams offense than I am the Bills offense, because the Bills defense I think is more scary than the Rams defense. The Bills defense was the number 1 defense in the NFL last year against deep passing. But the number 1 deep passing offense was the Rams. I actually would have guessed that it was the Bucs, but when I dug into these numbers, it was actually the Rams had the most passing yards in the league. Deep passing. Efficiency-wise, maybe they weren't the best, but in terms of pure volume, they had the most deep passing yards that came from deep passing attempts. So it'll be really interesting to see sort of the strength versus the strength with the Bills versus the Rams tonight. But personally, I'm siding with the Rams offense winning out in this game. It might not be very early in the game, but by the second half, I think the Rams offense will click. I think they have enough firepower to keep up with the Bills defense. I think it's going to be tough to cover Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson. We know the Rams can get very creative on offense too, but this is why I'm taking the Bills though in the game. I'm taking them at the 2.5 point spread as favorites, because I think that their defense is a little bit scarier even than the Rams defense, which obviously is stacked with talent as well. But I also am more confident in the Bills offense too than the Rams offense. So I think there's like a slight edge on both sides of the ball for the Bills. And this is why they are people's Super Bowl favorites this year. And I think that's getting a little out of hand too. I don't know if you guys saw that report, but that definitely made me laugh when I heard it. So apparently on NFL Network, they were predicting the Super Bowl at some point this week, and like 10 straight NFL Network analysts said that the Bills were going to be in the Super Bowl. I mean, can we get a little bit less chalky on NFL Network? This is why you need something like the WalterPicks app, especially it's like the NFL Network waiver wire ads. Everything that NFL Network does is pretty vanilla and usually very chalky, very on whatever the public thinks is going to happen is what everybody says on NFL Network. So I don't think that everyone should be picking the Bills to be the Super Bowl favorite. I don't think there's a team this year that like everyone should be picking to be in the Super Bowl. There's probably 6, 7, maybe even 8 teams that have legitimate Super Bowl hopes. My bold Super Bowl prediction, by the way, is that we see the Baltimore Ravens in the Super Bowl this year, and Lamar gets the playoff monkey off his back. Obviously, that's very bold, but I do think that it is possible. All right, we got about 10 minutes left, a little bit less than 10 minutes in the stream. We got a Wentz versus Trubisky question. I can't wait for the Sunday morning live and the start state questions we see in the Sunday morning live. But man, Gabriel, man, you're down bad, man. This is not the situation we want to be in going into the season. And Gabriel, I'd actually go to the waiver wire and I would go see if Matt Ryan is available because I think I'd take Matt Ryan over Wentz. Trubisky is a little interesting because he does have some talented weapons, but I'm out just on Mitch Trubisky in general. So it's probably Trubisky over Wentz for me, but I mean, that's pretty gross. It's pretty gross. McKenzie versus Brees. Yeah, Jack, I'm going Brees over McKenzie. It's tough. It's too tough for me to start McKenzie over Brees. And Brees does have a really low floor, but McKenzie has a low floor too. So I would probably go with Brees in that situation. Ramondre Stevenson or Brees. This one's definitely Mondre over Brees. And now we got to get back to the Thursday questions, though. I do apologize for that to everyone in the live. All right, Thursday question we got from D1 reads, Isaiah McKenzie or Ayuka, the bazooka. Got to go with Ayuka, the bazooka over Isaiah McKenzie for me, definitely. But again, I do like Isaiah McKenzie's prop tonight. So put Isaiah McKenzie on the bench, but then root for him. Take him over 35.5 receiving yards. You can find this line basically everywhere. I do like that a lot as well. Do I start Cam Akers over Breece Hall? Yeah, I'm out on Cam Akers, like in general, a little nervous about him. I think there's a wide range of outcomes for him, sort of towards the tail end too, like towards the downside. But I'm definitely starting him over Breece Hall. Breece Hall is a guy that I would rather not start in week 1 against the Ravens. Michael Carter's going to be the starting running back, or at least mix in like around half of the time for the Jets. And then it's also the Jets. So like you're sort of double hitting yourself. You're betting on a bad offense, but also a guy that's going to get half the work in a bad offense. And again, I believe in the talent of Breece Hall, but I would take Cam Akers tonight. I think I only have Cam Akers, though, as a fringe start. Like there's a lot of guys. I'm starting Chase Edmonds over Cam Akers. I'm starting Ramondre Stevenson over Cam Akers. I would start A.J. Dillon over Cam Akers. I would start Tony Pollard over Cam Akers. There's 4 running backs right there that a lot of people probably won't start over Cam Akers, that I would start over Cam Akers. And I'm just a little bit nervous about how the backfield is going to shake out in terms of touches. I think that there's a possibility we see Darrell Henderson get close to 50%. I also think there's a possibility that we see Cam Akers get as much as 80% of the backfield. So there's definitely wide range. And that's why we do have Cam Akers projected 12.4 points in the WalterPicks app. Again, you can do as many start-sit comparisons as you want in the WalterPicks app this year, 100% completely free. There are some premium features, like you can't compare 3 players unless you're a premium subscriber in the WalterPicks app, like you're seeing on the screen here. But you can still compare any 2 players and get their projected points. You also won't see their boom and bust probability without the premium sub. But you also can do the premium subscription for as little as $10, and you get a 7-day completely free trial. So I do appreciate all the support for the WalterPicks app. But yeah, I'm leaning Cam Akers over Breece Hall tonight for sure. Rondo Moore, Tyler Lockett, Lazard, or Singletary in a PPR league. I don't think we've seen a Devin Singletary question. Nobody wants to start Devin Singletary this year, but I'm okay this week. I'm okay with Devin Singletary in this situation because you can't trust Rondo Moore. Rondo Moore's looking very questionable now. All of a sudden, there's a big Kanye West, by the way. Thanks for tuning in to the live. Respect to Kanye. But Rondo Moore is getting an MRI right now. He hurt his hamstring like just a few hours ago. That was reported. He might not play this week. Devin Singletary is definitely playing tonight. Allen Lazard, he might not be playing either. And then you're between Tyler Lockett and Singletary. Part of me wants to say just send it. Go with Tyler Lockett. Like he has by far the highest ceiling of all these guys. This is really a ceiling floor decision though. And I probably would lean towards the floor on a Thursday night. I would just lock in the touches for Devin Singletary. He's going to get at least minimum 10 touches in this game. And Tyler Lockett, like he's either scoring, under 5 points or over 35 points. So I would probably go Singletary, but it's definitely close. Favorite player props for tonight. Yeah, my favorite one is Isaiah McKenzie over 35.5 receiving yards. I also do really like the Allen Robinson prop, but that's been moving up and up and up at this point. I don't think there's too much value left to squeeze out of the Allen Robinson prop. I do think there's still a lot of value left to squeeze out of the Isaiah McKenzie prop over 35.5. So I do not hate that. We have a Thursday question from Evan asking about Zeke, Chase Edmonds, A-Rob, or Cam Akers in a full PPR. It's got to be Zeke. I think I would start Zeke in week 1. We got a fully healthy Zeke in week 1. He's going to probably get over 20 touches this week, bro. All right. We got A-Rob or J.K. Dobbins at flex in a PPR league. Yeah, you can't trust J.K. Dobbins. Let me just run really quickly, and I'll run through this, of course, Sunday morning too, but this is a Thursday night question. Get J.K. Dobbins out of your lineups. Get Rondo Moore out of your lineups. Allen Lazard is looking questionable. Get him out of your lineups. Get Chris Godwin out of your lineups. Some people asking questions about Chris Godwin. Like, he's ahead of schedule. Even if he plays week 1, though, like we want to see these guys play that are suffering through injuries. So, yeah, definitely Allen Robinson over J.K. Dobbins. Thursday question, how much points does Stephon Diggs have? Yeah, so I'm pretty in line with these projections here. Cooper Kupp's projected an insane amount of points. And this is how the projections shape out because he's coming off the best wide receiver fantasy season of all time. But yeah, I think we see Steph Diggs probably go right around 18 fantasy points tonight. He could easily score a touchdown. I think we see him go over 60 yards. I think we see him go over 6 catches. I'm in on Steph Diggs having a very consistent season. I don't think people quite realize how safe of a pick Stephon Diggs was in fantasy this season. There might not have been a safer pick than Stephon Diggs with where he was getting drafted in the back end of the first round, beginning of the second round. Stephon Diggs last season, he was 5th in the league in targets, but he had the second most air yards in the entire league. He had the second most red zone targets in the entire league. And he also had the second most unrealized air yards. So there's still a lot of room for growth for Steph Diggs, who had 16.8 fantasy points per game last season. He still had 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, and there's still a lot of room for improvement on that, I think, with Steph Diggs in arguably the pass-heaviest offense, what will be the pass-heaviest offense in the league this year. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the first Thursday night live stream. Yo, Sam, breathe. My brother going so fast. Yeah, I know. I get too excited, Yoshua. I do. I got to breathe. I'm preparing myself for the Sunday morning live, where I'm definitely going to have to breathe on that one because that one's like 4 hours long. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to the first Thursday night live. Again, I do like the Bills tonight. I do like Isaiah McKenzie over 33.5 receiving yards tonight. Get those guys I just mentioned out of your starting lineups. I do have a lot of confidence in Steph Diggs, Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, and Josh Allen tonight as well. And I don't think Matthew Stafford's the worst start either. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. Enjoy the first football game. Thank you so much for spending some time watching this live. Time is the most valuable thing we have. So thanks for spending some time with me tonight. I'll be back live Sunday morning. Have a great rest of your night, everybody.